All right, thanks for tuning into this. The story of what was happening in Afghanistan seems like it was the top news story around the world. And something that, of course, like everything else, devolved into political rhetoric back and forth. But I am very fortunate to have access to people who are experts, who have experienced things. And I'm bringing on my buddy who was there for the kind of the pull out, the removal of troops and stuff like that. So I'm gonna see if I can get him in here and we can start the conversation. Um, I don't know. I don't know anything. So I'm always trying to work my way, still my way through it.
Hey,
Hello, sir.
what's up? You haven't called me that, dude. Hold on. Let me get some light.
You know what? Don't feel too special. I call literally everybody sir or ma'am.
Whatever. Yeah, it's a force of habit being from the South. It's big time.
Yeah, I'm just like, how are you?
All right. It's just boredom now. It's just freaking, still out here for about a few more months, and hopefully I don't have to work again. I'm praying I don't have to work again. That's like my ultimate. It's better for everybody if I don't work. So,
Yeah. Well, can you just bring us into like I understand that you're under like kind of pressures or whatever, and just the reality of the situation is you can't, reveal everything about what you've experienced and stuff like that. But um, when this is going on, I reached out to you and I was just like, because I know you through one of my former students. You were
yeah,
her CEO or something like that, and she just spoke highly of you, and so she connected us. And right away, I was like, it was like stepbrothers. It's like, are we best
yeah,
friends? um,
for real.
when I reached out to you just about what's going on in Afghanistan, because you've spent time there, and then you told me that you were there, and that's when I was like, oh, all right, well, let's just see what's going on. So can you just bring people into like, as much as you want to share about who you are, what your situation is, how you know this
All
stuff.
right. Well, first of all, I would like to give a really big shout out to freaking 2-1, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, and 1-8 for they were given an impossible mission, and they succeeded at that. In my opinion, they were given a bunch of infantrymen were airport security, and they did what they can with what they had. They didn't have anything. They were coming out of the 24th MEU, and they held out what they could hold out, and I have a lot of respect for that unit. And I was with 2-1 way a long time ago, but yeah, it was really awesome to see before the incident, to see them out there freaking doing it. It was heartbreaking what happened.
Yeah.
Afterward, it was, to be honest, but it's a lot of respect to those two units, man. They really, you know, the weird thing is a lot of these kids, they're kids to me, honestly. I've been doing this for 20 years, and some of the people that are I've served with, and you know, these kids, it's their first time ever in the global war on terrorism. This is the first time they're actually freaking paying for their bones, collecting. They were young, man. A lot of the kids, even with the Army's 82nd Airborne and the night and the other mics that we had out there, they were all kids. So this is their first. This is their first actual time that they have to be in harm's way. So yeah, I give a lot of respect to those two units. Especially 1-8. They were way out of it. It was complete freaking chaos.
What was
Seeing
their job was to what? To pull people out?
No, their job was to secure the gates, the two different freaking entry points from the civilian side to the military side. So that was their gate. So the thing that you saw, I guess, when everything was going to shit with the people being, the Afghanis being hurt and killed, that they were outnumbered, honestly, and they can only do what they can until the 82nd Airborne came, and I guess the 82nd Airborne was the one holding the flight line, the runway itself, while the
Right.
Marine Corps of the freaking different entry points and the gates. So that's why I'm saying that I give them a lot of respect, because they were doing crowd control, and they were doing it with no sleep, very minimal freaking no showers, toilets were kind of. So I give them a lot of. They did a lot with what they had, and the morale was pretty high until that incident that happened. But it's awesome that that those that generation was put to the test, and in my opinion, they succeeded.
because they were trying to avoid the stuff like we saw on CNN with the Afghans grabbing the plane and
Yeah,
taking that kind of stuff.
but the objective was to secure the freaking just the what was it again? Secure the freaking the objectives that were important to the American government, to our government, basically. Controlling the airport, not the runway, but the airport itself, and controlling the entry and exit points. So that's why it was a big deal. So again, I give them a lot of, all they had was Constantine wire, and they were doing what they can with riot control stuff, flashbangs, and everything they could. It was utter fucking chaos, to be honest. That's the best way I can describe it. It's in 20 years and 10 in the Marines and 10 in the Army. I've never witnessed or been in a situation that's a completely different. Yeah, that was different. That was a completely different thing that I've never. I'm really proud in how they reacted to it. Especially since this generation kind of sucks, to be honest.
They're getting soft. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, these kids, they weren't even like around or even maybe alive for like the 9/11 attacks.
Nah.
So what made this situation so much different or more chaotic or more crazy just from your vantage point? Like what was that?
We did not hold the battlefield. We did not hold the objective. The objective was there was look. I don't like to play the politics game, and I'm a firm believer the war was over when we first stepped in Afghanistan in 2001. That's my. So first of all, before I go into the spiel about me, I've always, as I got older, I got more and more against it,
Yeah.
and seeing on in the policies, and just the people to me that made the most money were the military complex, Raytheon and all that. But this was different because you don't give up the most strategic freaking point like Bagram. You don't just give it up for the enemy. And then now you're talking about this small little airport. You're trying to freaking. There was. I knew this was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to be that rapid. The Afghan army, not. They're not. Some want to fight. Some don't want to fight. It's a real. It was just a shit show, and it was different because there was no really armor. It was basically the collapse. It was the end of it. It was the end. It was just we were trying to get things out of there, and people were trying to get out of there and stuff like that. So it was just utter chaos. Is what it was. That's why, from my point of view, from differently, we had an objective. One was show of force in 2010, 11. Others was the invasion of Iraq. The other one was, retaking the town of, Fallujah and stuff like that. That's different. There's an objective. The objective was to evacuate, Americans and people that were pro, that helped the American government from the Afghani side. But it was heartbreaking. It's even now, the wake of it, we're still feeling some of the repercussions with people, displaced. There's 14,000 in Germany from what the news tells, and then there's other people in other places, and it's just amazing, just how bad it got and how just.
You've interacted with the Afghan people then.
I beg your pardon? Did
You,
I?
you've interacted with the Afghan people and
Yeah.
like is it accurate? The way I've always understood is like Afghanistan has always been, because the region is so mountainous and divided, that it's always been just like tribal. Like this, it's hard to secure a position over them. Is that accurate? That most of them are just like just like kind of simple farmers and shepherds and.
We had a 22-year-old female estimated to be, and she didn't speak any freaking dialect known to any Afghani that was there. So that tells you, yeah, I don't know where the hell she came from. I thought she came from Sandgan, or she came from the south or the north. No one knew, but she had an infant with her, and no one knew what she was talking about. I couldn't even freaking. I'm pretty good with languages, and I couldn't even understand. You know,
I read
you know, we
something. 95% of Afghans never even heard of 9/11.
yeah. It's this is where I dig into the American culture. Americans are so busy with all this other stuff. Like I know you've been beating the drum about this race thing. Oh my god, dude. Ugh. I don't. These people don't. they look, some look Asian, some don't look Asian, some look Middle East. It's a huge melting pot in that country, but it's just that it's you're going back into the medieval times, and when you're in Afghanistan, they're not worried about all the stupid crap that Westerners are worried about, and just all the drama that we make. Honestly, I think is we're bored. We make a lot of the issues in our own country.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have, I mean, real problems, then you kind of develop them. And I also know your past of being raised in like the poorest county in America that was a white county, and you're not a
Yeah,
white. Like it's like this, like you have a different perspective, but like I think you have perspective. You've been around the world. You've talked to a whole bunch of different people, and it's like that Mark Twain quote about racism and stuff is, or was it something along the lines of like what's poisonous to prejudice is travel or something along this.
exactly. Exactly. And it just it just, what bothered me was, some people were saying, well, I don't want these Afghanis here, not in my country. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, hold the fuck on. And I had somebody in I was saying in my unit, somebody was saying that they didn't want to go help them, with in there because they didn't want them in their country. And I'm like, I didn't say anything to the person at first, but in the back of my mind, it's like, wow, you're so worried about this when it was you that pay taxes. You have done all this to ensure that we displaced 53 million people since the start of the freaking Gulf War on terror, and you think that it's an inconvenience they're coming to your country. To be honest with you, it was really, it takes a lot for me to get offended. Like, I have the thickest skin. I've been called all kinds of things, and I was like, you know what? Yeah. After I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna adopt an Afghani kid. So that's my next goal right now. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I am. I think, yeah, I'm determined. I am hella determined, especially seeing them. Yeah.
I mean, is there a truth to the the culture of the Afghans wouldn't mesh well with our culture, especially if they're like, you know, really out in Islam and stuff like that, that wouldn't mesh with American culture? Is there something to that, or you don't see that as?
Of course, American culture is consume, 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 consume. And
Yeah.
yet again, like, that's all. You know, I am a man of science, and I love science, and I do believe in God, but not in the extent that people believe in God. You know, I, I, I have a really big problem with authority, and I have a really big problem with the idea that you're basing your whole life, your whole existence is based upon a religious idea, and it prohibits you from experiencing and doing other things too. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just the religious aspect of these people coming over to our country and then trying to freaking turn that off, and that's not going to happen. The first generation, I guess, of Afghanis, that are coming from, as refugees to America, are going to be a culture shock. It's going to take at least 2 generations. Shit, man. What really broke my heart too, for example, is seeing those kids don't smile, man. You can give them. It takes a lot to get an Afghani kid to smile. You can give them a ball, soccer ball. You can give them a freaking candy and nothing, man. Stone face, and they're hard people, man. It's very tough times, and they grew up in. They're very, very hard people, and it goes to show that how spoiled Americans are, and just how we treat our kids and everything. I was upset because of some of the soldiers or kids I have, and how they reacted to certain events and stressful events, and I blame the parents. I don't blame, you know, no, it's the freaking parents' fault.
Yeah.
Like, I had one get mad because I gave her a task and she didn't want to do that task, but
And
it was a
she's
very yeah, it was a very important task. Dude, the task, honestly, man, it was freaking, it was ironing flags
yeah.
for the freaking the transfer. Like, dude, that's a big fucking deal. Like, the president of the United States is gonna see those flags, and I got attitude. I'm like, dude, really, really? Like, what the like, man? That's where it's different from my generation to theirs. And that also bugged me too, man. When something tragic like that happens and you're working, man, it's all hands on, man. You can't just freaking, nah, I don't want to do this job because I think it's stupid or it's too little. No, it's part of the bigger cog, of what's going on, the big will of it, thing. So that bothered me, man. But
Well, that's such an American thing. I mean, just like you don't, if you can avoid hardship, so you do. Like most people around the world, as you know, can't avoid hardship, but we can. So we force ourselves to go to the gym or whatever it is, fast or whatever, as opposed to like people who don't have food. So Anthony, when this was going on, like as this like chaos was happening, what were you just kind of watching this, trying to keep control of like your people? And then also, what happened when the suicide bomber went off? Like, what was going through your head, or what was your situation?
Well, that's a whole.
Whatever you
I
could talk about.
I I I process things a lot different, and I unfortunately have been through really difficult times and during this whole 20-year adventure, and it sucked because yet again, from what I was told was the word of possibly of some suicide bomber or stuff like that wasn't told to the people on the ground. And what sucks about it was it was just a perfect fucking storm, and I can't really go into what I saw because it's for the respect for the family and all that went on. But yeah, it was pretty intense. It was, there wasn't like 10, 15, 20 people from our point working. There was only like maybe two, three, and trying to gather and process all that and evacuate those remains and stuff like that. That's a huge deal. That's a Yeah, that's a freaking big deal, and it sucks, man, because you can't fight that. You can't fight an enemy that uses tactics like that, and especially when there's people around. It was unfortunately the first one did its thing, went off, and then people did what they do. They ran over to help people. They were pulling Afghanis out of the freaking ditches and everything. And guess what happened? The second guy came up, and so he got the rest of them. And it sucks because in the 2 years that you know we've we haven't had that many casualties at a single time. We processed 13 people. It hasn't happened in 2 years.
Right. I mean, so let me ask you this. So, pulling out. I mean, I know you and I've talked about it a bit. Like, we're both kind of anti the whatever regime change wars, as Tulsi Gabbard would call it, just like sticking our nose in everywhere, picking, getting involved in all this stuff. But is pulling out of all these spots the right move? I mean, look, just from your point of view, or should we have kept some people in Afghanistan the same way that we keep people all around the world? We have bases all around the world because there haven't been many deaths in the past, in the past several years. What should we have just kept something there, or is Afghanistan not the same as keeping troops in South Korea or Japan or whatever?
This is where I'm gonna get crucified by my freaking peers and everybody else because I'm really an oddball sitting in. I all I care about is the troops and my soldiers, my troops, my kids. I'm over it. I'm done. My career's done. I retire January fucking 1st. This right here solidified my exit out of this. I'm done. I'm done. But to answer your question, I would never leave anybody here. I don't think we belong anywhere in the world, and I hate to say it. Well, I don't hate to say it. The only reason why we're in Korea and we're in freaking, Germany, we're in Deutschland, we're in freaking Japan is because of World War II. And that was actually a war that was freaking declared by Congress the right way.
Right.
Not an illegal war. Not where yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were the evil that was going on in the world at the hands of the Japanese, 741, and the Nazis, everything like that, and we were attacked. So it's like, yeah, a legitimate war. It's a good way to put it. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is the thing people get. What about 9/11? How can you dare say that about knowing what happened in New York? And then it's like people act like I wasn't alive for it. Like, it was tragic seeing people jump from those buildings and coming up on the anniversary too.
Mm-hmm.
But you know me, I'm a firm believer of freaking nipping it in the butt before it even gets there. And this goes back to the whole entire us, the 70s and us missing in the Middle East and stuff like that, putting up Saddam and all that stuff. And then, so I'm a firm believer if we did not have the policies that we had in place, that 9/11 would ever happen? Possibly. The reason why I don't like 9/11 from the point of view from the people, the death of of all the 33,000 people that died, is the Patriot Act. It's all these other different acts that came with it, that came and changed America. America changed forever after 9/11. It changed forever in the sense of just our attitudes. The Bush doctrine is currently the doctrine of warfare that we're currently in. A lot of people don't know that. It's been how many presidents? 4 or 5 presidents. We're still under the Bush doctrine, which means that we're the ones that seek, we induce conflict. Back, it wasn't like that, but that's the Bush doctrine, and we're still using that doctrine.
Right? Is the idea.
Yes. So that's what what's it for in the end? That's the thing. What's it really for? And, you know, I had the privilege and kind of, I say the privilege, but I also had the unforeseen chance to be a part of what happened over there. And then those 13 souls that freaking perished, and working with those 13 souls and getting everything ready. We didn't sleep for 2 days. This is a high visibility that went on. So there was a lot of stress in where we work at. We processed, we did everything we could. We got everybody, and for me, it hit a lot more to home. First of all, they're Marines, and that meant a lot to me, especially from an old unit that I know really well, and the female aspect of it. And I don't like seeing females. That's why I'm very against females in the service, and not because they can't do what we can, but I just don't like females paying the ultimate price. I think that's the duty of men, not females. And to me, I'm a firm in it, and people argue with me all the time. And this is coming from past trauma too, not from this event, but something else too that I witnessed. But I just don't like it. I don't like seeing females in that state. And to me, it's just like when I feel that females are in the front line, we're no better than the Soviets in World War II when they were that desperate because they were getting killed left and right. They had to have their females in the front lines fighting the Germans. So to me, it's a sense of desperateness. And even though I'm not trying to put females down, I just don't think they need to freaking die like we die.
Which is interesting because the former student of mine that introduced us is female.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah, she knows how I am about it. I always tell her all the time, and I mess around with them, and always tell them, I hate that you're in the service. But on the same note, she's a pretty good soldier, and a lot of them are. Honestly, a lot of them are mentally stronger than a lot of the males are.
Yeah.
Especially in. Yeah, so it's what it is.
Female get injured, killed, things like that. That's just it resonates with you in a different way, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hate it, I because it's times are changing and everything, and then, I'm not one for all females to be barefooted and pregnant because that's just stupid. And me, how can I be a good actor if I freaking believe in freaking oppressing some other person that lives with me with these ideas of that you need to show up and check in with me and all this other stuff? You can't be a hypocrite. You got a lot of advice, but from the military role, I just don't like seeing them just get hurt.
Officer. Yeah, I mean, you're in charge of people too. So if someone would die under your watch, it would be different if they are younger, if they are female. Like, it would hit you differently for different reasons. I'm sure.
It did, and I've had people die under my leadership, and it will never leave you. But not this time around. But I'd never leave you. It'll haunt you forever, and that's just the decision because you have to implement the commander's intent and what the commander wanted done. That's the most important thing, the commander's intent. And unfortunately, if you lose people during that process, it's a tragedy. But if the commander's intent was met, the mission was successful. It's the reality.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I don't want to go off topic, but like the idea of equality. It's like, well, do you want equality in all areas? Because men are overwhelmingly more, homeless and, suicidal and all this kind of stuff. Like we don't want to even everything. And I think this probably falls into that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just what this got really political really quickly about how Biden's terrible, Trump would have done a much better job, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God.
It's really frustrating how everything will become political. But taking Biden out of this, because it's so easy to blame him, but what could have been done better? And again, I don't believe that Trump would have done this better. I just think that it seemed like it was just like a bad situation, but it seems to me a lot of people are saying, we agree that we should pull out of Afghanistan, but the way it was done wasn't ideal. And I was kind of saying that too. I was like, I hope that if Tulsi was our president, who's like the only politician I like she would have done it better. She would have, consulted people in the military who were not bought out by the military industrial complex. So what could have been done better, just from your opinion, about how to do this? Because we're in it now.
Yeah.
We're stuck. So agreed that we shouldn't be there. But now that how do we move out? What could have been done better from your opinion?
Well, this is the thing. It's funny. I have a friend that her and I go into it. She's super, super duper liberal, but I love her to death. And, she was telling me, that, Trump's plan, and I can care less about Trump's plan, but, what I would have done, I would have give up Bagram. I would have waited. I would have evacuated every single person that either helped us, had a visa, get their families, get everybody out that I knew would have been, persecuted and murdered by the T-ban, get them out of there, and then I would leave. I would not honor no freaking, you need to leave by September 1st. I would say, no, fuck you. I'm not leaving. If you start any shit, I will carpet bomb the shit out of you. And, unfortunately, that goes kind of against my, now I'm adding more to the death toll. And, you can't use violence to solve violence because it just becomes more violent. That's just the whole how evil works. But I would never have given up Bagram, and I would have freaking, utilized a lot of my other assets and tried to freaking hold on and, tell the T-ban, look, dude, no, no, I understand that the Biden administration was under the oppression the Afghan army would have held a little longer, but no, there was no way they were going to hold. I'm surprised they even held as much as they could before, I knew it was in a class before September, way before then.
Yeah,
But I was,
know the Afghan army. You've even worked with them to some degree and things like that. Like that, I sent you like a picture, like a video of them trying to do like jumping jacks, and I was like, are they like trolling us, or is this legit? And you and a couple of my other friends who spent time in Afghanistan like, no, that's legit.
yeah,
They're just is it incompetent? Is that what it is? They're just not focused on. They don't want to be in the army. We have a volunteer army, but when you force people to the army that don't want to do it, is that what it is?
well, this goes back to like one of my favorite books, and one of my grandpa would always tell me the only what kind of Marine is drafted, and then and for them, the fact is, I don't think they're not, their heart's not into it. They're very cautious. There were times where we do, search of houses with them and everything, and you try to get them in the front, and they just go to a door and barely kick it, and it won't break, and then they look at you like, motherfucker, there could be somebody behind there, and then you're used to, I learned the best thing. It's not the best thing to do in a combat situation, especially if you're combat hardened. Dying doesn't matter. Dying is just another part of life. And then getting killed in the process is how you're gonna get killed no matter what. You're gonna die no matter what. At least I chose to die. Once you get past that point, you're always afraid. But once you get past that point of death and worrying about yourself,
You can do your job.
you're very dangerous. And then that's that allowed me to do a lot of things, and a lot of other peers to do a lot of things too. Is when they realized that, and I think a lot of the Afghanis, they were more for self-preservation than they were for actually doing their job. So that's where it goes down to the incompetence. It's not about, they just don't want to freaking die.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And then die what, for what? Like they might be okay under the Taliban. They might not like it, but, yeah, I had a roommate in college who was one of the first Marine units in Iraq in 2003. And I asked him about it, and he was like, yeah, it was scary. He's like, but then I thought of something. I had like an epiphany, and I wasn't scared, and I was able to do my job for my whole time on my deployment. I was like, what was it? He's like, well, then I'm going to die in Iraq. He's like, once I realized I'm going to die here, then I wasn't scared, and I could just do my job. He's like, but I didn't die, and now I'm back. And he had PTSD. He was an alcoholic and whatnot. And like, that's where it fucks with your head when you say like, okay, I'm gonna die, and then you don't. Then what happens then? You got to go back to civilization and go to Ralph's to buy groceries, and it's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. It just, you know, I'm curious to see how we're going to pull out of Iraq because technically we're supposed to be pulling out this year. So I wonder if Biden will complete straight freaking career suicide and do that and pull out, out of Iraq this year, or shit, even when he's in office. Because honestly, the same situation is going to unfold again. It is.
Yeah, I mean, should we pull out everywhere? Should we be out of South Korea? pull out of Germany? Should we pull out of Japan? Should we pull out of all? Should we just leave all of our bases and then just kind of sit back on? We still have all this military equipment. Just be like, if you attack us, then it's a wrap. But as long as you leave us alone, but I don't know. I mean, but then that influences our global market share of like, hey, if we have guns like Teddy Roosevelt, the Great White Fleet, right? Like, speak softly and carry a big stick. Let's just let the world know we got guns on them, and then when we go up and politely ask for a good deal on oil or whatever, bananas, they'll be like, all right, here you go, right? It's the market, the capitalistic element of this. Mixing that with military gets really
Yeah.
that.
Well, this is the thing. If you pull out, I understand we're the point of no return. And honestly, I would like to freaking go back to isolation and just leave everybody alone. And is it feasible? And unfortunately it's not, with the military complex and everything going on, and how, I was told how fluid the world is. It just, from a military point of view, it wouldn't work. But then again, my argument is, we're pretty self-reliant when we actually freaking want to be reliant. And not, I hate the fact that we're involved in the global economy, and I'm all against all that globalism and all that. I just, I'm a firm believer. That's why I live where I live. I just want to be left alone. So I would love to see us leave Iraq and leave the Middle East completely and let them freaking worry about their own issues. We're in Deutschland, but that's been a pretty good, this is how you can excuse that, because that's been a pretty good relationship. Same with the relationship with Japan and South Korea. It's been both beneficial for both parties.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. It's a really complex question. And if you do that, then, you get people that are very, patriotic, and then they're going to freaking get mad, and just, it makes no sense to me. They just want to put more money and trust into this war machine. And it's just like, okay, it hasn't done anything positive in the last 20 years. So what make you think it's going to do anything now?
It's a strange thing, Anthony, because like, we're scared of another attack like 9/11, because that was horrific. I mean, I remember it well. I was a freshman in college, but like, it was horrific. So we do all this stuff, the fear of that. But that's 20 years ago. There's a lot of things that happened in our response that are really scary too. Like, it's almost like I'm bringing up like all this stuff with like about like COVID and stuff. Like, if you do supreme lockdowns or shutdowns and stuff like that, it's not without repercussions. You might be safer from the virus, but when it comes to other things, like the economy and mental health and all this other stuff, isolation for teenagers, I'm seeing firsthand, it's not good. It's like, is this worse than the possibility of another attack? And we don't know that, because we don't know what another attack would look like. But to be in this for 20 years, and we say like, well, we didn't have an attack for 20 years. Like, yeah, we didn't have an attack like that for 60 years before that. So, how much of this was just a one-off? And if we get out of there, if we become isolationists, are we really at more of a risk of a danger of a big attack like that again? I don't think that's for sure, right? I mean,
Hey,
who knows?
again, and I hate to say that, 9/11, I don't compare it to Pearl Harbor, and there's a reason for it. When you destroyed almost the whole entire Pacific Fleet with one swipe, that's a lot different than freaking. No offense to everybody, I had a friend that was there. He was a Marine. He's still around. Yeah, he wasn't Robles. He went to work, and then they hit the towers. But it's a little bit different, and I understand. To me, the thing is, what got us to the point where these people thought it was the right thing to do. So that's where I want to get to the core issue. Like, do we really need to freaking go around, throw coups everywhere, start shit where we don't need to be, starting? And this is why they hate us. And honestly, it's probably it. The Japanese, they did it because it had to be done, because they want to be an empire, and we were in their way. And if they thought we were soft, and once they got us out of the way, then you had the oil, you had everything they needed to freaking go ahead and be self-efficient, and then you march on to Australia. So that's why I don't put them both. I don't compare the two. It was a tragic event, and unfortunately, yes, like always, our government overreacted. And who really was the big winners? It wasn't us. It wasn't the American people. It wasn't the it was the freaking military complex. It was the freaking the representatives and senators that were making all these new laws that are just honestly rooting away from our, from our freedoms and liberties. So
Yeah.
to me, use, and they ran with it. That was the perfect moment, the perfect storm, and that was 9/11 that changed the whole dynamic of America.
And and someone mentioned something about nation building. Like, it works when people say, "Hey, help us build our nation." South Korea, Japan, like, they embraced this, the building cars and electronics and stuff like that. But we're unless people are asking for the help or saying like, "Hey, we want this," it's not going to work. And that's the thing. It's like, it's a small faction, a lot of these countries in the Middle East, that want us there. The majority don't. The majority just want to be left alone. They just want to pray. They just want to, tend to their family.
20 years of nation building, they got us nowhere. And this goes again, no offense to the freaking Arabic people, because I'm a fan of them, you know what I mean, especially their women. But first and foremost, nation building didn't get going well too well. These people are used to being freaking ruled by a very oppressive freaking government person. Saddam. You look at freaking the T-ban ruling over freaking Afghanistan after freaking, they overthrew that the king in the 70s. So they're used to oppression.
Stuff like, girls were just there's like, you see pictures from the 70s in Afghanistan, girls are wearing like mini skirts and just having out, and then right away it was like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, that was the golden age of Afghanistan when that really was. But yeah, they're not the nation built. The reason why I think we were sold for the nation building is because the people that made the money were the contractors, and certain people were in bed with them, and they were getting a little kickback off that and all that nation building. You're talking about millions and millions, even here where I'm at now, seeing all this food, all this water getting dried in here, petroleum, everything. They're talking millions upon millions of dollars, honestly. And it's just like, for what? For freaking what? It goes back to my thing. This is expensive. No wonder why our country is freaking in so much debt. This is a very expensive venture.
Do you think we're going back in to Afghanistan?
I hope to God not, but I wouldn't put it past anybody.
I've heard say it's getting worse. They said this is gonna get worse. You think it's bad now? It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. Like, what is that? What is that? I'm not sure if you said it, but a bunch of my military friends did. So what does that mean, that it's gonna get worse?
I like to compare and contrast the freaking, if I may. One of my favorite people that is no longer in existence because he was murdered by the Obama administration. I would like to freaking quote Gaddafi, and see how Libya was and how the standard of living in Libya was, even though it's arguable that guy was a dictator, that guy funded terrorism. However, the guy freaking spent millions of his own money to strengthen Africa. And the standard of living was higher when Gaddafi was around and when he was ousted. Now, Libya, they sell slaves in Libya. It's a freaking lawless it's almost as bad as Somalia. So by us ousting, getting out of there too, it just, there's a civil war. Everybody's for the thing that sucks about, have you been hearing about the Northern Alliance again coming back to life? Or no?
No.
No.
I mean, I don't. No, I mean, I have a 4 week, so like, I've been missing a lot, but I don't know. It's probably not the news.
The Northern Alliance is freaking, there's this one young gentleman that's freaking trying to freaking do what he can to fight against the T-ban. He's doing everything he can, and he's up in one of the northern provinces trying to get everybody actually drove what they could and brought what they can. They're regrouping. But then you have them, then you have ISIL in Afghanistan, you have the T-ban, you have, yet again, it's a power vacuum. It's just like when they freaking got rid of the Felix brothers in Mexico, and then you have the Sinaloa drug cartel. It's a power vacuum.
Yeah, Saddam was brutal. I tell my students, like, that thing when he took office and took everyone out in the alley and shot him in the head, like all the people that were like against him. But he was secular, which was huge, because then it wasn't the radical jihadists running the show. He was just, it was like a mob boss. Like, one of the safest neighborhoods is like the mob run neighborhood, right?
Yeah, and then that's it. It's just going to get worse. It's going to spiral out of control. So this is the thing, that you take the bait and go back into it. I know China wants to get involved, and I think that's kind of funny, because I think they're going to think they can do what two empires couldn't do, the Soviets and us, and they're going to try, and that's not going to work. Afghanistan's a very versatile and fluid place, that everything's always changing, the different tribes and everything going on, and the will of the people are strong.
Yeah, they don't care about these big nations building like a ton of power and wealth. They care about jihad. They care about Allah, right? I mean, it's not. We're playing two different games here. You've
Yeah.
you had a lot of experience in the military, as you said, like 20 years. What? And I know that we've talked about the military-industrial complex a lot, and that's like kind of who if there has to be like a bad guy in this situation, it's them. It's these companies only care about profit because it's a corporation, so they care about profit. What is the average soldier's take on like the reality that we're being run by the military-industrial complex essentially, but the people who are deciding, like Lloyd Austin is on the board of Raytheon. I mean, it's not under wraps. It's blatant. Jay Johnson, whoever, these people work for Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, DARPA. What is the average soldier? Are they just like, it is what it is? Do they not know about that? What's kind of your take on the military-industrial complex as just like someone who's boots on the ground?
I choose, nah, fuck it, man. I'll be honest, dude. The worst they're gonna make me do is fucking take rank and make me retire. Look, man, straight up. I, I'm a senior leader. I'm not. I don't like the fact that a lot of these kids are not educated and don't understand why they're here. Me even being here, I questioned when I first. There's no reason for me to be here. The only reason I'm honestly here is to get a nice little paycheck and get tax-free money. That's really it. And a lot of them don't understand that. They don't even know who the freaking Secretary of Defense is, and that Austin gentleman. And he is the Secretary of Defense, and he's also the board of the Raytheon. A lot of these soldiers don't look it like that. A lot of the senior leaders don't look like that. When I'm in a meeting, talking about taking water from freaking people that work here, the nationals, and making a big deal about it, it's like, wow, you're actually telling about, you're in the middle of the freaking desert, and you don't think there's tons of water freaking points all over this freaking space, and you're complaining that their freaking nationals are taking water from soldiers. That's some freaking bullshit, man. This goes into one of my favorite political theorists of all time, is Hannah Arendt, and the banality of evil. And it's just people are so callous to other people's freaking turmoil and freaking hurt that they don't realize it like that. And a lot of I personally try to educate my soldiers on certain things and certain events and tell them why they're here and stuff like that. But there's just a very blindfold thought process, and then the patriotism is real, and I respect it. I'm not, I don't really get involved in it. I'm not, really big in it, but I get it, and I get what people think, what they want to think, and what they say, what they want to say. But I'm a firm believer in just trying to be freaking empathetic and to view where everybody's coming from. And it's not like by a lot of my senior leadership, and from way up the top too as well, because I speak my opinion. And like this whole COVID thing, I find hilarious. Dude, this is fucking. I love this. I can't wait to get home. And where's your mask? If I can be in Afghanistan with freaking thousands of refugees, or be anywhere in the freaking Middle East without a fucking mask, I ain't gonna wear one. And guess what? Nobody got sick. And another thing too, was really funny. I thought, what was very distasteful was when this shit was going down, when Mr. Austin made that freaking COVID freaking mandatory thing, and he printed out for everybody to see it. My biggest thing, I knew then and there, this is all politics, because right now what I'd be worried about is the fucking Americans over there, the Afghanis, evacuating them, and then we'll talk COVID. Then we'll talk that, because when I remember in that plane, I don't remember anybody wearing a fucking mask, and no one gave a shit. You know why? Because people were getting fucking killed.
There's real. Yeah, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. You were on the last planes out, right?
No, I was never on any last plane out. What are you talking about?
I mean, all right, whoops.
I was never there, dog. I was in Bahrain, bro, hanging out. But yeah, it was surreal just seeing the pictures and videos and stuff like that. It was surreal seeing that flight line and seeing everybody. It's wow.
Yeah,
that's it.
You just have you have perspective when you're around real hardship where people are dying. I don't know what the rate of death is in places like Afghanistan, but I'm guessing it's higher than the mortality rate. Like the average age of death for COVID is higher than the average age of death. That's that. And again, it's not saying that COVID is not real. It does. Like I've died and stuff like that, but it's real. But globally, it's it's small when you're talking about it's a Western problem. It's like a first world. It's like a white people problems kind of.
Yeah, well, look, I got it, man, and I thought I was a hangover, so I just drank for 4 days straight, and then I started couldn't taste the whiskey. I'm like, oh, I got COVID, and then I just relaxed, and I'm a pretty. And see, this is the thing like about COVID, and no one says anything, and then this is the thing that everybody gets. They get, it's political. It's politics, it's
Yeah.
politics, politics. But honestly, no one has any more takes any responsibility for their lives or themselves. Like no one does. Like the reason why I had an aunt die from it, I think friends, they've died from it. But you know what? They were fucking fat and unhealthy. And I hate to be a dick. No, I don't. Be honest. That's your life. If you want to freaking be fat and you want to be unhealthy, that's what you choose. If you want to be freaking poor and you don't want to do anything with your life, that's your life. If you want to go out there and you want to freaking make a hustle, get educated, start reading books on your own, don't depend on the public school education, no offense, or the college, no offense, because they don't teach you shit, you do that. You're responsible for what you choose and do. That's why when I come out here and people, I don't expect people to thank you first. No, I'm here to do a job. I know what I got into. I get killed. I get killed. That's the nature of the beast. I don't need freaking anybody to freaking give me a fucking handy because no, it's the truth. And the same thing when me, I was a little heavier and now I lost a lot of weight because it's just what's the point? I'm almost 40 years old, and
Yeah.
because this is going on and it seems like it's getting worse. Take care of yourself, take care of your body, take care of your health, take care of freaking your sleep, your health, the eat what you eat, how you project yourself to the world. You know, that's what makes me so mad about it. And being here in these Middle Eastern countries, it's mandatory. Those vaccines, you cannot move anywhere without a vaccine out here. And to me, it's all political. It's the same thing. Just after hearing Austin push that guidance out, and the funny thing is, there's still no guidance. The guidance is out there, but the military can't kick you out yet. They can't freaking they can NJP you, Article 15 you, non-judicial punishment yet, because they're trying to figure out how they can do it. They don't know yet. The system's
Yeah.
completely broken.
Like people are just like it's the same thing with like upping the regulations on police officers. It's not like a ton of people are in line to join the Marines right now, or even can. Again, I think it was Tim Kennedy was talking about how it's like 2% of the population can even hit the basic markers for the PT stuff.
Yeah, I can't be
Like
the Marines. Tattoos.
yeah,
Like,
um, so just I don't want to take up your whole morning or what time I don't know whatever time it is there.
it's nighttime. I'm gonna be up for a while. I usually sleep for like 3 hours and wake up and go to the gym, and then yeah, I got weird hours of sleep. So you're not taking any of my time, honestly.
What but what are the average citizens? I'm a citizen. I've never enlisted. I'm not in the military. I don't know much about the globe. I haven't traveled a whole lot. I learned what I can learn from my phone, from my computer, and from talking to people such as yourself. So what are most citizens missing with what happened in Afghanistan? They're only getting it from CNN or Fox News. They're getting it from pundits. They're getting it from politicians. What's something that you think it would be valuable for citizens to know? Because I have a lot of people who watch this account, man. This is crazy. Like when we met, like it was a lot smaller than it is now. Like
Yeah, I didn't want to. You do a lot. I noticed that. I just did not want to get as deep as you got into the weeds because this is a lot. You do a lot, dude. And
yeah,
honestly, dude, no one listens. What's the point? You take a lot of flack from just no one. Nothing's going to change because people can't get over their own freaking self prejudice and their own. No one's open to experience or to hear other people out. And to answer your question, what people need in the states,
yeah. What do they want to know about Afghanistan? What happened?
compassion and empathy, and to allow that the real perpetrators of Afghanistan are not the Afghan people or the Taliban. It's your government. It's our own government. It's the way that we project ourselves to the world and what we do and all the murder and mayhem that we spread all over the world. It's our government. It's not left. It's not right. It's black. Our freaking government. That's it. I hate getting into the conservative things and then conservatives. I was a conservative. I come from a conservative family, and then after the whole, the abortion thing and everything else, and going to a little more towards the God aspect. Even though I believe in God, I just like what, not for me. And then knowing that the conservatives spend as much money as the left does, and the left is just the place that I can't even comprehend. It's funny. You can never have a discussion with a liberal, but you can have with a conservative because a liberal will get very, 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 very mad at you, and they will continue to insult you. And to me, and then they paint this picture of how that a Republican is or something like that, and you're like, you're really falling into the banality of evil. Yeah, you're dehumanizing somebody, and that's bad. That's the first start. When you start dehumanizing people, that is the first most horrible thing you can do, because that sets the first freaking domino, then the other domino, then the other domino, and that's what all the horror. Remember, all the horrors, all the fucked up shit in humanity and history, always happened under the flag of freaking good government and goodwill and order, not disorder.
I love this country. I love this country. And I think that's important to be able to criticize this country. The way I explain it to teenagers is like, your best friend is not your friend who's like, girl, you always look good. It's like, no, your best friend is the one who's like, you look like shit. You got to get yourself together. Come on, let's go shopping together. Come on, let's have a nails night or whatever. Like, someone who says you're acting like an asshole, that's your best friend. It's not the one who says you can do no wrong. And that's why I think the problem with patriotism, the way that it is by a lot of conservatives, but by a lot of people in general, mostly conservatives now, is like, we can do no wrong. Don't criticize us unless it's criticizing the Democrats. It's like, no, you have to criticize America to keep America to hold up to its ideals that it was founded on and try to constantly improve to become better. So I think this is really important to recognize, like, this is our country, but it's our country's interconnectedness with these major corporations that have just been given a free pass. I mean, the Pentagon can't get audited, apparently. I just heard Matt Taibbi talk about that. Like, so there's
Yeah,
no, yeah, like, what's going on?
they're one of my favorite speeches was by the freaking late president, freaking Ike. I like Ike, and and you're talking about a 5-star Allied Supreme Commander warn us about
The
what's.
military.
Yes, a 5-star general warning people. Hear it. They don't listen to it. They have never. I've run into so many people, and I'm like, hey, have you ever heard Ike's farewell speech? Who's Ike? I'm like, wow,
Right.
wow.
He's
Like,
he
and you're right. The best. We live in a very comfortable lie in America. Everybody lies to everybody, and it's what everybody likes. Everybody likes the facade of order, the facade of just, you know, the narcissism out of people from in the states, for especially Americans, people in the world, is it's disgusting. People are so narcissistic. It's just it's all about them and how they project themselves and streamline themselves through social media, through everything. You know me, man. I look like shit. I don't try to. Ego is everywhere, and unfortunately, it's going to be the downfall of society because everybody has lost the ability to be empathetic and to be compassionate to one another,
yeah.
and to be honest. You're right. There's no honesty. There's no, hey man, you look ugly today, or hey, you need to freaking go ahead and, let's say, you need to go ahead and freaking stop freaking finding bad people, bad men or bad women. Being very brutally honest, and you're repeating the patterns that have caused you so much dismay, but you continue to repeat those patterns. Therefore, when you talk to me about advice, I'm not giving you any advice because you refuse to change your freaking thought process. And to me, that's the biggest problem with America, our inability to freaking see any wrong or right, and the two-power system where everybody's so divided. Republican, Democrat, COVID, non-COVID, all this stuff, and it's hilarious to me, honestly, and just to see, just to me, it's the end of an empire. To be honest, I'm honestly, between you and me and whoever's watching, I'm counting 2 years from now. It's like the Soviet Union, for the collapse of the financial collapse of the United States, because it's coming. 30% of the money was printed, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So everybody, you tell people that, people get pissed off, or you tell them, "Oh, my mom died," and I like that argument. People talk about personal things that happened to them. That's the best argument you can give to somebody, to show you show why you are so compassionate about it. But it's not factual. Yeah, it's factually died, but if it's not factual in the sense that, okay, you should ruin an economy and people's well-being and take civil liberties for a cold that you have a 99.5% chance of beating for freaking healthy people. People die, man. It goes back to that whole, everybody's so scared of dude. I love this time. It's fucking mayhem right now with Afghanistan, with everything going on, dude. I can't wait to get home. I've been watching. You're my news source because I refuse to watch social media. I mean, Fox News. It's garbage. The media is straight up garbage.
It's all pitting. There's always a bad guy, and usually the bad guy is within your borders. So you're pitting neighbor against neighbor.
Yes, you need to
So
have a bad guy.
it's so destructive, but it
Yeah.
sells clicks. Again, like you said, like people are just looking out for themselves. I got to sell clicks. I got to get that stock up. So the people on the board. So stockholders, we need quarterly profits so stockholders can make money, and that's the way that everyone from New York Times to Raytheon are thinking. And it's not even what capitalism is supposed to be.
Yes, I keep saying that. People argue me, we're capitalists. No, we're not. To me,
No, like,
we're a
capitalism, no.
capitalist. Yeah. You don't let any businesses fail. If it was you know what? I voted for Obama, and I hate admitting that because I thought he was going to let the big corporations fail and have this huge reset, and he did not. He did not do that. He just put everybody down.
And people are like, well, that would have meant a lot of jobs. It's like, yes, like it's ugly. But that's kind of what's going on with Afghanistan. It's like this looks ugly. It's like, it's ugly. Like, but pushing what's ugly or uncomfortable down the road further just causes it to get worse. I read this book to my kids. I don't know if I think it's over there, called There's No Such Thing as a Dragon. It's a great like children's book where this dragon shows up. It's like the size of like a cat. You've read the book?
Yeah.
And then his mom's like, there's no such thing as a dragon. So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it just destroys the house and runs away and everything like that. And then once she goes, oh, it is a dragon, it shrinks back down. And I think it's just a brilliant book about like what we're doing here. The debt, there's no dragon. The mental health issues, no dragon. Obesity, no dragon. Printing money, no dragon. Our presence all around the world, no dragon. It's just getting bigger and bigger, and then it will be undeniable, and then it's too late. And that's a really scary concept.
I think it's too late already. I hate to be, me, I'm a very, and I think it's too late. I already think it's the point. Everybody's being silenced. You're being attacked for whatever reason for freaking, trying to bring some kind of conversation to the table. It's so polarized and divided. There's nothing. It's already there. This country's broke. The economy is just hanging by a string. I don't even know how cryptocurrency is making any money right now. It's pretty awesome, to be honest. But it's depressing. It really is. And and it goes back to the lie that I talk that everybody lives in because no one wants to see what's in front of them. It's like being in a bad relationship and having your partner cheat on you, but you're like, nah. They come home, we go out in the sun, the weekends, but you're trading that bad for the little good, and it is. It's something needs to happen or this nation's going to perish. And I'm not talking that, but and the thing that people get really scared of, and I will dare say it, is revolution. There's been enough bloodshed, and I'm in this nation, and you can't have a violent revolution, oust the government, and how you're going to enforce it with more violence. You can't. The authorities forced on people with violence, and it's just that concept people can't understand. That's bad. That's tyrannic. No one has any. No one has any right, as long as you're not hurt anybody, to fucking put these rules on people and freaking do horrible things to people in the name of order and stuff like that. It just baffles me, and just how people just don't realize that, and you're more cognitive and can take a step back and hey, let me hear what I may disagree with you, but why do you think this is possible? Like you and I are being forced to hear the COVID people freaking criticize and freaking come at us all. I get come at over here all the time by peers. I'm like, dude, is the mission really about COVID, or is the mission that needs to be freaking implemented? They weren't letting people move to support the exit out of Afghanistan because they weren't freaking vaccinated. And I'm like, dude, I guarantee you those Marines in 2-1 and 1-8, a lot of them are not vaccinated, and they're right in front of these people with no mask.
I have who faked their COVID card. I have former students who are like 19 and faked their COVID card. And one of my former students went to New York. He's 19. He's like, I went to the bars. Like, they don't even check IDs. They just check for COVID cards, and I have a fake one. There's a lot of a fake ID. It's like, oh man, this is such
it is a mess. So this mortality.
You ban abortion, people will still get them. And I understand being pro-life. I get it, but I'm just saying, like, you can't just assume that if you put a law in place, people will follow it. They won't. We know that from history.
Yeah.
Like
Hey, be ungovernable.
yeah.
Be ungovernable. So one of your followers is saying that that's the problem is not the mortality rate of COVID. Okay, so the problem is what? The people get sick. Okay, people get sick all the time. Is it the problem you're talking about the hospitals? Because my the funny thing is, well, my mom got sick. She works at a hospital, and my mom still went to work and worked like 4 freaking days until freaking they tested her and she popped positive. My
For coming on here and talking about this. It's like, having you in that area during that time is so valuable for me, just like as your friend, like just being able to like, what's going on really? Because again, I don't trust the news. You got me?
Yeah,
Hear me? Okay.
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Um, yeah, I got you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're back stateside, we'll go sailing. Come meet my kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do really doing. The hospital is so bogged down right now with COVID that we're okay. Well, again, so I am sympathetic to that, and then it goes back to just so the hospital's bogged down. All right. So my mom works at the county hospital in Los Angeles, and they were bogged down too, but they figured it out. And unfortunately, the people that were dying there were, oh, this is her exact words, overweight, older women in their freaking 70s and 60s. Like I said, it sucks. It's the reality of things. If the problem is the bogged downness, then maybe something needs to be done within the administration of that hospital to freaking get more equipment. It's the same thing with here when we were overwhelmed, dude. We went and did things with very very little, and we needed things, and we accomplished the mission. So that's I understand that. I understand figuring it out means people would die. People die all the time. I'm sorry. That's the reality of things, and I sound so callous, but that's just the. I know it. Trust me, I've dealt with death since I was freaking 16, working at the like coroner's office, in the military, and doing now I'm mortuary affairs, so
yeah,
I deal with death.
well,
Um,
about death as anybody.
yeah, and that's what sucks, man. And another thing too, not to go off topic, but really, what made me mad was working on. I'll be honest, working on these people getting these remains, these heroes out of here, getting the fallen people the fallen Marines that died, and seeing their faces and seeing them on Instagram like that. And I'm like, holy dude, I didn't, I can't put a face to this person, but now I can. Now I know who I'm working. You know what I mean? It just that's a lot to take in, and it affected a lot of the other people that I was working with, and with me, it got to me too. Like, damn, dude, I can just go on the Instagram and boom, there it is. There's that person that's sitting right in front of me right now, and that fucks with. That's just the cold. That's what I hate about technology, man. That's a cold reality I don't like, and even now I kind of don't like seeing pictures of it. I just like, fuck, man, it sucks, and I understand. The families were freaking notified, they were told, but I'm a firm believer, and that's why the other thing I hate about American society, we're not private. We're not as private as the Japanese are. We're very out there. Everything's open, and I wish for some privacy in the hospital, but instead they worried about businesses and bailouts. See, there you go. 2 years. See, there you go. So yet again, government's failing yet again because they're worried about businesses and bailouts. That's a government problem.
Yeah,
Back to yeah,
COVID has been around for a long time, and we still are acting like we haven't learned anything. Like, yeah, it's been just our government's just incompetent, and it's not just a Biden thing. You can blame it on Biden, sure, but no, this goes back across all of these. Even brilliant. I mean, Obama's a smart guy. He's a smart guy, and he did the same kind of stuff. Like this. It's just I don't know. There's a real crisis for leadership that's willing to stand up to these companies and do what's good for the American people and stuff like that. But it's complex, and I don't know. I don't know what to do.
yeah.
But I know.
It only becomes an issue when it's an issue. It was the same reason when we were there and we sent people out there, to Afghanistan, and we were not an issue. No one cared about, no one supported us until that event happened. It goes back to me. It's just the ability of human beings to realize that, hey, you have to be prepared for everything. And, it may not seem that it's a feasible, probable idea that, all these beds, instead of say in the COVID hospital, investing money into, oxygen machines until it bites them in the ass. And then there you go. And unfortunately, human beings are very, we backpedal a lot. And government's the worst thing. I don't know how anybody thinks that government has your best interests and can take care of you. And that's the most, wow. Like, mm, yeah, no, no way.
Yeah, I mean that's what you have to learn from history. It's funny because at the end of my year of teaching U.S. history, I teach the 10th graders. They're always like, "Wow, America's done some really like fucked up things." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. So you're next. Your generation's next. Fix it. Stop." That's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Do stop. Like do something different. Because
Yeah,
yeah, I love the country. I'm very patriotic, and yet I am hypercritical because I think that's what a good patriot should be.
exactly. And that's why I hate the service now. The service is broken. It's broken in a lot of aspects of leadership and just what they want from the troop. It's broken from the amount, the type of soldier, Marine that you get in. It's broken from the get go. And that starts from freaking American society and how they take care of their youth. But broken in the sense as leaders, they they have blind obedience. They have blind authority to these kids, and they don't see them as an individual. They see them as a numbers game. It's a numbers thing. One of the most fucked up things I heard came from a colonel. This is before all this, when we first got here, and why they wouldn't support mortuary affairs, because our numbers are too low. Our number wouldn't it be a freaking good thing if our numbers are low? If our numbers are high, that means people are dying. I couldn't believe it.
The
I couldn't.
business.
06 told one of my E5s, one of my sergeants, that fucking 101st. Gotta love those guys. But yeah, I told him that hey, your matrix are too low, and he was so blinded by the number game, he did not see who he was talking to, what his MOS was, what we were doing. And he was just backpedaled, and it's just like, dude, it's just no one realizes it. It's grown so big, so out of control. No one realizes it, and then, like Tyner says, you get all these kids that are just,
Yeah,
from broken.
kids
It,
from
it,
the kids from the trailer.
yeah, that and that are just, they won't listen to freaking authority, then they become a problem. Then honestly, now as a leader, you're just babysitting. You're not even that per soldier and our Marine is not engaged in what they should be doing. You're babysitting. You're trying to distill good thing. Like, why do I have to tell young freaking male soldiers not to touch females? And no means no. Like, dude, this is basic shit. Me, one of the biggest womanizers I know. There's certain things Gomez does and certain things Gomez does not do. And tell you that right now, I respect all women. If there's no interest, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to freaking do it at work. I'm not going to do it here. You know what I mean? There's time and a place. But yeah, it's blatantly out there, and nobody, and it's a problem. It's a problem in the service, and it's a problem because it's a problem in our society. Violence against women is a huge deal in America. You think about it, and I hate saying it, and I hate being that one. Look at the video games and stuff like that. But in the back, one of my favorite freaking psychologists of all time was Dr. Zimbardo. He's got this beautiful book called freaking The Failure of Man. And it talks about how pornography and violence, and Americans were very violent, has affected the way that young men think and the way they process intimate relationships and stuff like that. You remember being a kid, being a man, especially being a boy, you couldn't show your emotional, you know, I remember you and I were playing. Say you and I are playing. We're playing in freaking some park, and I fall down. I can't cry in front of you.
Right?
You're a wuss, right? So you get into that's kind of bad when you don't allow people to express their emotions. So that's one of the big things I've been learning as a leader. A lot of these dudes don't know how to even talk to females because they're so disconnected.
Yeah, just emotionally disconnected. They just
Yeah,
shut. Yeah, I've done that in my life too. So you shut down the emotions as opposed to being able to handle it, and you control it. In times and places. Then you can. I mean, a control is like a valve. You can let it go too, because sometimes what happens then, and this happened for me, is like then I'm like, all right, I want to cry, and you can't. Like that. It's like shut down.
yeah,
You got.
and yeah, yeah. Then it sucks though, and then you get into the discipline aspect of it. I'm a firm believer. You can't always freaking slam somebody's freaking hand all the time. You got to figure out. There's always a reason why somebody's acting out, and I've always learned that from just being around there. If one of the troops is acting like an asshole to you, or acting, find out why. Don't come right away freaking with the freaking huge hammer. And I've always done that. First, I'll come see out why, and it's always something at home, something going on, and then we'll figure out what's squared away. But the second time it happens, oh, I come down with a rain, a fucking hat of terror, because this is the service. You're here. This is not. I don't think this. The problem with the armed forces, it's ran like a Fortune 500 company, and everybody forgets the point, the reason for the armed forces. They're there to win. You're there to kill people, win wars. That's the sole purpose of the armed forces. Not for college, not for benefit. That's the sole freaking purpose. Everything else is a byproduct, and people forget that.
Yeah, a good way to close it out. That's a harsh reality, but that's the job of the military. It's not a business. It's not a Fortune 500 company, but now it's being treated as if it was one. And this is what we get. Hey, you got to make good. You got to do more business. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for doing this. When are you going to be? When are you going to be done? When are you going to be back stateside?
December, January-ish. I don't even know, dude. Shit's just all. It's fun. It's funny. Just yeah. I'm just happy that one of the conflicts closed, and I'm hoping that nothing. That this is it. That we're not working anymore. That we can just go back to freaking training and doing what if scenarios. That's what I'm really banging for.
Wow.
Yeah, for real. But yeah.
All right. Well, take care of yourself. I really appreciate you doing this.
I love you, big guys. I'll see you soon, man.
All right. Yes. When you're back stateside, we're gonna hang out for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
Later.
Take care.
Thank you, man. Bye.